Hey y'all. As you can see, I am deep into prepping the Charger's unibody to accept the Rev 2 frame that I've designed. But to get all of that done, I'm going to have to employ really a ton of fabrication and welding techniques that I've learned, have been taught, and have practiced over the years.
Among these different skills, TIG welding has become the most transformational to my overall fabrication game, and is also just one of my very favorite things to do.
So while I wouldn't call this the definitive how-to for TIG welding, it does include kind of a review of what I consider to be good habits, tips and techniques that have made a difference to me, a little bit of a review of some of the equipment that I use, and just those differences that have accumulated, not the least of which is just a lot of practice, but those things that have accumulated to make a difference to me in my sort of fabrication life. If you want to see more of this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe, and join the conversation by leaving a comment. In fact, it's those three things that you can do to support the channel and help it continue to grow. All right, I'm going to get back to working on these rockers, and I hope you all enjoy the episode. We're going to start. I've been out of town for a little bit. I went on a long hike in northern New Mexico. It was fantastic. And as I get back into the shop, one of the things that I really need to do is kind of freshen up on some of the stuff that I haven't done in a while. I haven't welded in like 4 weeks. I've not done any sort of like material prep grinding or anything like that in just as long. And I need to find a way to get back in the groove. One of the things that I like to do is make up little test squares. And so I always keep a stash of coupons on hand, and I just kind of fire up the welder and I just kind of put my mind right back in place. So I guess I'll start by saying I am not a certified welding instructor, so my advice is free and could be worth every penny. And so, you know, just kind of try some things out like I have, find some coaches, people who will teach you things. I'll share with you what I've learned up to this point, and you know, hopefully that's useful to you. Start with sharpening some tungsten, all right? So I don't have a real fancy tungsten sharpener. I don't have a dedicated grinding wheel for it. What I do have is a Dremel. And then I just got on Amazon and I got one of those, it's like, I think they were like a 10 pack for $10, diamond wheels. And I'm on my second one and it lasts a good while. This is super simple, and all I do is I chuck my tungsten in my drill. What I'm going for is almost a sharpened pencil here on the end. 22 degrees is kind of normal for steel, stainless, all that. Some people blunt the others a little bit more when you need for different other types of material. Pretty much, I'm not a good enough welder to really be able to tell the difference, so I go for super pencil sharp on every single piece, and I just let the inverter machine do what it will to the tip. You know, aluminum is going to, because it's going back and forth and it's heating up the tungsten a little bit, is going to ball the end just very slightly, kind of dull the end. Steel, you're going to maintain that tip for a good long time, as long as you don't stick it in the puddle.
I like to use 2% lanthanated tungsten. It's a good all-arounder for mild steel, stainless, and aluminum.
So 2, 3, 4 pieces is enough. If you're dipping tungsten and really ruining stuff, you need to take a break. And I just looked at the thermometer. It is 103 in here, so hot.
TIG welding is really sensitive to the cleanliness of the work material, and these coupons have some light surface rust that needs to be sanded. Plus, the edges are still a bit rough from being put through a shear, so I'm going to give them a light pass until I see bright steel.
We're gonna go to, I think I've got it saved as 1, just regular DC welding. We can jump that down based on doing open corner welds, to 120. That's pretty easy. It's all 1/8 inch material and shouldn't be a problem. This is not a flip-flop approved episode, so personal protective equipment, PPE, is something that's pretty vital. We'll cover it here very shortly. I wear a fire retardant hat every single time. Always wear my boots, anything closed-toed. Let's see, one other piece. Astute observers will notice that I wear a ring. Well, that sucker's got to come off. So, fortunately, my wedding ring gets to stay on, but this guy's got to come off every single time. I'm also going to mask up. Anytime I do heavy welding, I won't do it for the tacks so that I can explain to you guys what I'm doing. But you want to make sure that you are protecting your precious lungs. You only get one set. Make sure that you take care of them. There's that old adage that says there are no old welders. I think we ought to aim to prove them wrong. So I'm going to set this to the side for just right now. So if you're able to see that, I got a nice open corner set up. It's about an 1/8 inch square. And even though they may still look dirty, notice I dressed and cleaned up each one of the corners, and the weld surfaces are shiny and bright. So we're gonna have a good weld. I will still, even though I clean that up, after I do the tacks, I'll come back with a stainless brush and I'll clean up any kind of just remaining corrosion that there is before I do the full weld. So, I'm pretty happy with that. It's a good spot to start. One thing I like these 1x2x3 blocks. You can get them on Amazon for cheap enough. And they're just nice ways to make sure that stuff is in the same plane. So, I need a filler metal. You might have heard. That's important when TIG welding. If they're scrap pieces that have that are used, I like to clip the ends and make sure that they are ready for use. It's important to make sure that you allow the full post flow on every single little weld. That's how you make sure it solidifies correctly. So even in this, what you're waiting for, and even whether it's a tack weld or a big long normal weld, what you're waiting for is, unlike MIG welding where you pull the trigger and you start flowing metal and you've made an arc in contact, because you've got a lot of amperage control, you basically just barely start your current, and then you ramp up with your pedal until you start to look and find this molten puddle, until the little T1000 puddle starts to move around a little bit and you can see it very, very clearly, that's when you can add your dab. On tack welds like this, it takes very little, especially because you're here on the corner and there's not a lot of room for this heat to escape.
Here's a better view of what I'm trying to describe. Start the arc, ramp up the current until the puddle starts to form, and as you push the weld with the torch at a 15 to 20 degree angle, dab the filler at the edge of the puddle. For more of this behind the lens type of video, go to Welding Tips and Tricks YouTube channel. Jody Collier has a ton of great insight and instruction.
So, I'm gonna tack this other side, and then we'll be halfway done making our cube. One of the other things that helps is if you're using 16th filler, you've got to make more heat and make more of a puddle than when you're using 045. So 045 is real handy for tack welding when you don't want to put a lot of heat into it. This is still cool enough you could almost touch it by hand. Almost. Not quite. Okay. Do this again. Just a practice cube. One of the things that you get to practice is fit up. And it's a necessary skill just as much as welding. Okay, now that we got the two halves, it's really just about piecing them together. Okay, we are tacked twice on each side, and that means that we're about ready to go do the weld through portion. Before I do that, like I said, I'm gonna brush in here, make sure everything's nice and clean, and I'll clean up the faces too. So give me a minute, I'll do that and come back to you. It's at about this point that I put on my respirator. And it doesn't come off until I'm done.
I'm humming along at about 80% of my puddle travel, and one dab of the 16th filler wets the puddle to the outer edges of the open corner. I like about a 60 to 75% overlap for each dab of the filler, and just before application, I extend the arc ever so slightly so the filler and expanded puddle don't contact the electrode. It's a somewhat mechanical set of motions and can be deeply meditative. It is good to be back in the shop.
And that's it. Now we got a cube. Let it cool. I hope that was useful for y'all. I really wanted to show that kind of higher level fabrication skills like TIG welding is well within reach for gearheads like us. It just takes practice, a decent machine, some good habits, and then lots of hood time. Really, there's no getting around the hours. Related to equipment, I'd say whatever welder is in your budget, TIG, MIG, whatever brand, that's the one you should go and get. There's never a bad time to start learning how to do some advanced welding techniques. But I've really enjoyed my Everlast. It's a value brand for sure, and kind of the same thing for my Hobart. And here's the piece of advice that I was given that I'll relay, and I think serves really well, is save on your tools, buy the tools that are not necessarily in that good, better, best. Always buy good and better, but don't ever skimp on quality parts for your vehicle, for your speed machine, whether it's your truck or your car, whatever. Buy the very best parts you can for that and save on tools. Thank y'all for watching. I appreciate whatever feedback that you have. Just leave a comment. Meanwhile, I'm going to get back to working on the rockers, prepping those to accept the new frame rails. That's the next episode. And we're going to talk all about how to prep the unibody, get it locked down, keep it safe while we're doing all of this heavy work. If you want to follow progress in between episodes, you can find me on Instagram, Willamette Motor and Fab. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing y'all next time. Take care. It's only 102 in here right now. Nice Texas August.